Hello, happy Thursday, everyone. Please comment below if you are watching. Just type hashtag replay if you're watching this on the replay. I'd just like to see who is popping on here. My name is Kylene Terhune, and I wanted to just hop on today and talk about nutrition and how it can support your body before, during, and after treatment. So my personal experience, I was super into nutrition and health and gut health and working with clients one-on-one and myself before for about 2 years before my cancer diagnosis. Then I utilized nutrition, supplementation, support during conventional care through chemotherapy, and I was able to get through, I guess I should say, all the treatments with minimal side effects and no long-term side effects. And then I found that I was in remission after the 3 rounds of chemotherapy. So then I used, like I said, the supplementation and the nutrition before, during, and of course now after. But there are nuances and differences between what you can and can't do, or what's most beneficial before, during, or after. So I kind of wanted to just briefly touch on that. And before I jump too far in, I wanted to recommend this book, Beating Cancer with Nutrition, because if you are looking for an integrative approach or just more information or knowledge, this is a really wonderful book. Patrick Quillen is the author, and he is actually the one that has worked with Cancer Treatment Centers of America, that grouping of hospitals throughout the country that specializes in cancer treatment, and they have a nutrition program, and it's actually based, and they actually have naturopaths on staff, so they are the most integrative cancer treatment center that is a conventionally based chemo medicine hospital. Okay, so they have worked with Patrick Quillen to develop a nutritional process, and again, they work with naturopaths and everything. They have them on their staff, which is pretty amazing. So I actually went to CTCA in Chicago to get a second opinion, the staging, all of that stuff. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about. So he's really smart. And this book is literally packed with information. It talks about supplements, it talks about foods, it talks about how to support your body, it talks about what cancer is, like how it's developed, it talks about, it has recipes in the back. It's just an incredible resource. And really, I think anyone with any cancer, Hodgkin's, not Hodgkin's, breast cancer, it doesn't matter. You really, just to get a fundamental understanding of what's going to be happening in your body, how you can support it, this is a great resource. But generally speaking, I'm going to keep this pretty simple. The rules for us really are the same as the rules for anybody else. And that is that there's no one exact perfect diet that works for everybody. When I work with my clients, I teach nutrition. So very individualized nutrition for every single person is different. They have a different medical history. They have different biochemistry. They have different lifestyles, different genetics. All these different things come into play in regards to like what foods work for your body. But there are some overarching principles that work for everyone, right? And those pretty much are no processed foods. Okay, processed foods cause a lot of inflammation in our bodies. And when we are dealing with something like a cancer diagnosis or like a chronic disease or like a fatigue or anything where our bodies just aren't working properly, typically inflammation is connected. Hi, Kathy. So if you kind of reverse engineer it, you'll go from disease and you go, well, where did that, what's kind of triggering this? And you'll find connected to almost any disease, if not every disease, that there's this chronic inflammation in the body. So you go, well, where does that chronic inflammation come from? So you reverse engineer that, and typically that starts in the gut, because that's like our primary immune defense system. That's what filters things out, helps us absorb nutrients. All of these things start in our gut. And then you're like, well, what affects the health of my gut? Well, what we eat, our mental, emotional, physical stress, our exposure to toxins, all these different things. So nutrition plays a really big role in terms of keeping our immune systems healthy, calming inflammation, all these different things. So we know that processed foods are very inflammatory foods. They're used or they're cooked typically using inflammatory oils. So those are things like safflower oil, I can't talk today, safflower oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, all these different oils that are polyunsaturated fatty acids, and when they get cooked, they're unstable and they become inflammatory in the body, okay? Things that are more stable are things like olive oil, coconut oil. One of the best things that you can cook with is something like ghee or lard, because it has a really, really high smoke point. So if you're cooking at really high temperatures, using those oils that maintain their structure at really high temperatures, then they don't oxidate in the body. So those are some things to think about. So when you are eating a lot of processed foods, they use the oils that oxidate, that cause oxidative damage in your body. And so that's one of the reasons that overall processed foods is something that we would want to stay away from, right? So again, the same overarching principles that are good for any human on the planet are good for us. So that includes avoiding processed foods. That includes going gluten-free 100%. Now, as a practitioner, I recommend this to every single client. It doesn't matter what their medical history is. It doesn't matter how they feel. It doesn't matter what their goals are, really. If it's like to lose weight, to get more energy, it doesn't matter. The thing, you can go back to my previous video where I talked about, is gluten safe for anyone? The answer is no, at least in the United States. The two primary reasons, and again, if you want more detail, you can go watch that video, but the two primary reasons are it's very hybridized, so it's not the same plant that it was 100 years ago, and it's highly, highly sprayed with glyphosate. Both of those things cause extreme distress in our guts. It's just a matter of what level it is for what person, but it happens in every single person. So when you're dealing with someone, hi Kim, when you're dealing with something like a chronic disease, like gut problems, like constipation, really anything, everyone has, the thing about gluten is that people all have different responses to letting it go. Some people's skin clears up, some people lose weight, some people have better bowel movement, some people get more energy. Like with my son, when we took him off of gluten, within about a 2-week period, we noticed that he was much more respectful. His moods were better, like all these different things. It was more like a brain mood thing for him. For me, I was able to wake up in the morning and I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally not normal. I had gone my whole life being like night owl, sleep in the morning kind of person. And so anyways, it just has a different effect on everybody. But again, it goes to that same principle of we want to lower inflammation and we don't want to cause stress in the gut, damage in the gut, or anything negative to our immune system. So processed foods, eliminate, go gluten-free. Those are like the primary things, right? So when you have something like cancer though, there are, and then I guess the third one that I would say would be that every diet worth its salt prioritizes produce and vegetables as a majority of the meal, of the intake, right? And that's hard. I get it. I'm not perfect. Every day is not exact. It's not like every single day I have like 6 cups of vegetables or whatever, but prioritizing that, making sure you get variety within your week, trying to get, half a plate full of vegetables, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that sort of thing. So all diets kind of agree on, no processed foods, or all healthy diets. When you're talking about longevity, helping your immune system, lowering inflammation, those kinds of things, you're not focusing on crash diets, weight loss, blah, blah, blah. When you're talking about nutritional focus that helps like with your long-term health, they all agree on no processed foods and make sure you prioritize produce and all that kind of stuff. So when you have cancer though, there are some different approaches depending on what phase you're in. So let's talk about the first phase of, hey, I am before diagnosis, or I just got diagnosed, but I have a lot of time before treatment. And don't underestimate this phase, because one of the things that can help you get through treatment is to have as strong a body as possible going into treatment. Having your immune system set up for success, having your strength, your energy, your gut, everything kind of balanced as much as you can. And you don't have that much time to incorporate this, and that's okay. I personally took a lot of time. So one of the things that, I kind of want to talk about a little bit more in this group is depending on the stage, but typically, unless it's like super late stage and like really, really important that you get treatment now or else it's life-threatening, more often than not, we actually have a lot more flexibility in terms of giving ourselves some time to process the information. So I actually took quite a bit of time from the point of diagnosis to the beginning of treatment. So there's this period of time that you can take where if you want to, you can start utilizing some of these tools to strengthen your body, to kind of set yourself up to really pump yourself full of nutrients before you go down the road of treatment where it kind of really knocks down your immune system. So before treatment, you can have things like salads and fresh pressed juices and greens and vegetables and all of these natural foods. Now, if this is a new thing for you, like if you're going from like a standard American diet and you're like, how in the world do I do this? A really easy way would be to find a blog or something that like kind of sets it all up for you. You don't have to think about it. So like Whole30 is a really good one where it's really, really popular. There's a ton of recipes. They kind of lay it out and explain like why you would eat this, why you wouldn't eat this. Practical Paleo is a cookbook, and there is like the first half of the cookbook is all information. So there's all this information about the different foods, like how you'd want to eat for different conditions. Like it's just really informative. So if you want to learn and you want recipes, those are two really great places to start because they prioritize vegetables and real food and cooking at home and all these kinds of things. But you can still, before treatment, you can still have things, like I said, like the juices, like berries, like vegetables, like all this kind of stuff. Now, my doctor, my oncologist, I liked her because she was like, now a lot of people say, don't eat your raw fruits and vegetables or anything like that. She's like, don't worry about it unless your blood counts come too low. That's the only time you need to worry about it. So you might want to have that conversation with your oncologist. But just because your immune system is going to be knocked down doesn't mean that you shouldn't still be eating real food. It just means you have to take maybe a different process with it. So before cancer, you really want to do everything, or before treatment, you want to do everything you can to really, really fuel your cells, get as much dense nutrition, as many vitamins and natural foods as you can in, lots of greens and lots of fruits and vegetables so that you can really support your body as much as possible. Then during treatment, you still want to do the exact same thing, but when your blood counts drop and your immune system is compromised, you want to go from eating fresh and raw and juices and stuff like that, and you might want to switch into cooking them and steaming them and roasting them and things like that. So you're still going to be eating greens and fruits and vegetables, but you just change the preparation so that they're a little bit safer for a compromised immune system. So maybe instead of having a fresh juice or a fresh salad, you go for some roasted vegetables or some steamed vegetables right next to your side of grass-fed beef or whatever it is, okay? So you don't have to necessarily change dramatically the kinds of foods you're eating during treatment to still get the nutrient density, but you may want to change the preparation to be a little safer for your immune system. So then when you get out of treatment or your white blood cells bounce up, so for example, I'll give you an example. There was a period during my treatment where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of cooked foods. I really, really want some like cold food or some fresh berries or whatever, right? So you may have these periods during your treatment where your immune system kind of bounces back and then it dips and that kind of back. So listen to your body and your blood work and your doctor in terms of when it's appropriate where you can eat what foods, okay? Then when you get out of treatment and your immune system bounces back and it's safer again to do these things, you can basically go back to pre-treatment where you're incorporating more nutrient density that's a little bit more intense, where you're doing things like juicing daily, you're doing things like having salads regularly, and it's not even necessarily that it all has to be raw or anything like that, but those are just a couple ways to get a lot of nutrition into one meal or one glass. But you can do smoothies as well, and actually smoothies are really, really great ways to actually have a more balanced meal. So for example, if you have blood sugar issues, doing a green juice, a fresh pressed green juice, might be a little bit of a problem for you because even some vegetables are high in sugar. And so if you already have blood sugar issues, if you're drinking like this huge glass of juice by itself and it has a bunch of apples in it, just as an example, that might be like way too much for you, and you might notice some blood sugar instability, and that's like a whole other issue that you don't want to throw on top of the stress that your body's already handling, right? So Another way to get a lot of vegetables in, a lot of fruits, but balance it more like a meal so that it doesn't affect your blood sugar as, or doesn't have as strong an impact on your blood sugar in a negative way, would be to do like green smoothies. So there's a girl called the Green Smoothie Girl. You can look her up on Facebook. Her name is Robin Openshaw, and there's a book called The Green Smoothie Diet. And that was one of the first books years and years and years and years ago that my husband introduced me to, and he was like drinking these smoothies, and he was way, 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 way healthier than I was. And then I started getting into health because of him, and then it just all took off. But I've actually met Robin a couple times. She's super, super, super cool, but she has actually had a lot of experience with different cancers in her family, and so she's super passionate about education, about nutritional density, and all these kinds of things. So she would be a great resource as well, not only for recipes, but also to kind of like get to know her background and her approach to things. So there's another cool book that you can read or utilize. But anyways, back to the green smoothies. So the green smoothies really, hey Shelly, so the green smoothies, the reason that those can be beneficial over juices for some people is that you can get all the fiber, and the fiber is what's going to slow down that blood sugar impact, so that it's not going to like spike your blood sugar. You can also include things that have protein and healthy fats that you can't necessarily juice, right? So green smoothie allows you to turn it more into a meal, and a more balanced meal with carbs and fat and protein than does a juice. But with a juice, you can always have that as like a little side dish with a balanced meal as well, with your protein, with all these things. So those are kind of some overarching ways to support your body with nutrition before, during, and after cancer. Basically, before, you want to get as much nutrient density as you can to just support your immune system, strengthen your body, help you get through. During, you want to be aware of your immune system, but again, focusing on anti-inflammatory foods, because the last thing we need when we are being pumped with chemotherapy is more inflammation, more stress on our body. So just eating as naturally as we can to support our energy, to maintain our muscles, to do all these things. And then the one caveat I would put in during treatment is that I gave myself like a 72-hour grace period around the treatment day. So I get treatment on Friday, and basically Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would kind of like eat whatever I wanted, because I would have food aversions, I would have food cravings, I would have all these like weird tastes and everything from the treatment. And so within certain boundaries, like I did not, I never eat gluten. That's kind of a no-no for me permanently for life. So within certain boundaries, I kind of ate what I wanted. And so it wasn't quite as balanced as it normally would be. But you kind of have to go with what tastes good, what you're able to get down, what you're craving. You have to listen to your body during that time, okay? So that's kind of the one caveat there. And then by Monday, I would try to really get back. Now, your pattern might be completely different than mine. You might feel like amazing for 3 days after, and you can eat normally and all this kind of stuff, and then it hits you like after that. So just listen to your body, kind of really be careful to know like where your blood work is at, what your body's craving, what you need, what you feel like, what you don't want to eat because of the food aversions, and just go with that. During treatment, there are so many ups and downs, and so many times where like all bets are off. Your goal during treatment is to support your body, to listen to your body, but just to give yourself as much grace and patience and gentleness as you possibly can. You don't need extra stressors during that time. And then the goal after treatment is to be eating all these real foods and these healthy foods and these greens and these fiber, to make sure that you are assisting your body in natural detoxification, where these foods support your liver, they support your kidneys, and they don't cause extra inflammation or stress or problems with your immune system. I hope that has helped. If you guys have any questions at all about this, please let me know. This is a relatively new group still, so I definitely want to address things that you are interested in. So just drop your questions below, and I'm happy to do different videos on different topics that interest you. Have a great day.